Hello everyone, it's Mary Jane again. This is an owl. I'm not sure how I came around to painting an owl, but I was thinking about the bog, and so I got out my pencils and I looked up owls on Google Images because I didn't see any owls at the bog, but when I was reading about the bog, I discovered that there are owls in there, and I believe they're called barred owls or barred owls. And so I started looking at pictures of owls on Google Images, and I just find them so fascinating. And with October coming up, the owls are sort of a little bit like fall. They feel like fall, right? For some reasons. And they're very beautiful birds. And so I started drawing owls. And the first owl I drew was a barred owl. And then I drew a horned owl. And they don't really have horns. They have little feathers. Some of their feathers are on their heads. And so when they're sitting in a tree, they look as if they have little ears, or like a cat, or horns. So I thought that was a kind of a fun kind of owl to draw. So I drew the owl, and then I drew him on this paper, actually, right? That you can see my pencil marks underneath the paint there. And before I started painting him, I traced my drawing and I made it into a line drawing. So I'm going to include a sheet with a picture of an owl, this owl, and you could use it just for the outline of an owl, or you could use the whole thing. You can color it in with crayons, or you could trace it onto a piece of watercolor paper and you could paint your own owl. Now, I decided to paint this owl using two colors only, just because I've been painting a lot this summer, and those two colors are my favorite colors to paint with. And I know that real owls have browns and grays and other different colors in them, but I thought I'd make a decorative owl rather than an actual owl that you see from life, so that it would be maybe easier to draw or easier to paint, and maybe a little more fun to paint a decorative owl. So this is a decorative owl. You could paint him in realistic colors if you want to, if you're going to do an owl. I was filling in the feather areas, and if you notice when I'm painting with my watercolors, I paint one area and then I leave it alone until it dries, because if I keep painting on it, it'll get dull and dirty. And if I paint colors over top of it, they'll run around, it'll run all over the place. And I didn't want that effect with this. I wanted to control my color. I'm using a paper plate that has a bit of plastic coating because it makes a nice little palette to work with. And because I was making this little movie, it seemed to be the best white surface for my camera and for this demonstration. So that's why I'm using a plastic covered, well, it's paper plate, but it has a little, the plastic prevents the water from seeping into the paper. If you used a regular paper plate, it probably wouldn't be a very good palette. But you might have a paper plate with a little bit of plastic coating on it, or a regular plate is good for painting with watercolors if you don't have a palette, a plastic palette, or the lid of a paint box. The lids of paint boxes are sometimes designed so that you can use them to paint with. If you were going out to paint outside, you might have a paint box and you can use the lid of it for mixing your paint. I like using these two colors because they go nicely together. They look very nice. Now when I'm painting with watercolors, I start with a very, very light color, like that very light purpley color. There's a lot of water in it. I made it that way on purpose because the more I paint, the darker my paint can be over top of it. And it gives you a watercolor effect, and that's why it's called watercolor. Now I'm going back up to the neck because the other feathers are dry, and so it won't run around, the paint won't run around. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do as I went along. I just was feeling it. When you're painting, you can just enjoy it and think, oh, I think I'll put some purple there, or maybe I'll put some blue there, or you just use your imagination. There's no rules, and just enjoy the process of painting. Later on, I might do a sketch of a barred owl and put it in my sketchbook, and then I'll share it with you so that you can see what my barred owl looks like, and you might want to draw a real barred owl. There's lots of reference pictures in Google Images, and I think I might make a Pinterest board of the photographs that I took at the bog. I'm not sure if that would be allowed, but I'm going to see if I can do that. But if you need some reference pictures for the bog, I think I might start a little website and put pictures up there so that you could check them out and use them as reference. We're going to have sketchbooks, and they're going to be fun. We're going to fill them up with ideas and thoughts of things that we see around the neighborhood, outside. Maybe we'll take trips to the bog, and maybe we'll listen very quietly, and we might hear some birds, and we might see some birds. Oh, I saw the most beautiful little bird when I went to the bog on Labor Day morning. It was a Monday morning, and it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was listening for the birds, and I could hear them, but I couldn't see them. And then I heard a little bird in the bushes, and it was so cute. It sounded like it was looking for its mom. It had this sweet little cry. I'd never heard that before. And I thought, I remember somebody told me if you stay really still, you might see a bird. They might come out of hiding. Well, I stopped and I stayed still for a little bit. And then this sweet little bird hopped out of the bushes. He was down on the ground, and he had a black back, and he had white spots, and he had white spots on his chest too, and he had a bit of red on his breast. He was so pretty. I'd never seen a bird like that before, and I looked it up on Google Images. I found Camosun Bog, and I looked for local birds, and I saw a picture of what I thought might be the kind of bird I saw, and I think it was called a spotted towhee, and it was just beautiful. And I think from now on I'm going to try and learn about birds so that I'll know what kind of birds I'm seeing, and maybe I'll try and draw one too, put it in my sketchbook. He was so cute. I was realizing that I haven't been into the woods enough in my life. It's a very wonderful place to be, and it smells so good. So much better than some places in the city. It just feels good when you go into the woods. Have you ever noticed? The air is just so earthy. It just smells like the woods. There's nothing like it. So I was just playing with my color here, and I was letting my color get stronger and stronger as he got bigger and bigger. I speeded up the painting because I thought this is going to take a long time for people to watch, and it might even be too long for you to watch, and maybe I'll even shorten it up a little bit more. Maybe I will. Or maybe I'll just leave it and keep on going so that this gets finished. Yeah, that's what I'll do. He's got lots of feathers now, doesn't he? This little brush that I'm using is a brush that came with the paint box. It's a Faber-Castell paint box, but you can use any kind of watercolors. Crayola makes a watercolor paint box, and I think you can get them at Michael's. But the paints aren't that strong, but tubes of watercolor paints are nice. There's all kinds of different ways you can approach this. You could even do an owl with markers or crayons. But this one is being painted with watercolor on watercolor paper. And I put some green tape around it. It's just painter's tape. Because when I'm finished, I'll just take the tape off and I'll have a nice clean edge for my painting. Now, here I was doing the tree branch underneath the owl. I wanted to give it some texture, but I started to realize that I didn't like it. So I kept working on it to darken it. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing there, but when you're painting, you don't know what's going to happen next. Sometimes paintings don't turn out, but usually if you just keep working on them, even if they don't turn out the way you expected, you might be really happy in the end because maybe they're okay. So I gave him some eyeballs. I know that owls fly. They have great big wings and they fly after prey, and their wings are wide and they glide on the wind, and little mice and creatures in the bushes can't hear them coming because they're so quiet when they fly. And they fly down. They hardly wave their wings. What was I thinking? They can just sail down on their wings without too much flapping. I guess that's what I was trying to say. Flapping wings? Yes, I think that's what I was trying to say. Okay, so I didn't like what I'd done to the face. I started dotting, and so I decided to try and paint that out. I didn't like what I'd done. But you can keep on working and make it get better. I didn't like what I had done around the eyes. I don't know why I did those lines, but I was just experimenting. So I went and thought about it for a bit before I went back. Oh no, I decided to put some dots on the feathers just for fun because they look kind of pretty. I like painting wings for some reason. Christmas time I like to paint angels. Angel wings are fun because they're imaginary wings and you don't have to worry about them being properly organized. Okay, so I think I was going to fix the face here. There, I started to fix it. I went over it with the paint and the loosened up the dark paint underneath, and it became quite stunning. The eyes became quite stunning. I really started to like that a lot better. Isn't he spooky the way he's looking at you? Yeah, and I decided to go under there, the feathers under the neck. They can turn their heads almost all around, but not exactly all around, but they can really move their heads around. I found a couple of websites online. My daughter-in-law teaches at the outdoor school in Maple Ridge. It's called the Environmental School, and they have classes that are outside all the time, every day, in spite of the weather. And so she knows a lot about owls, and she told me that horned owls aren't exactly around this area, but barred owls are, and also barn owls. And barn owls are really pretty. And she gave me a website. I think it's a British website about barn owls, and there's lots of information there about barn owls and their hunting habits. So I'm going to include it in the PDF because you might want to check out owls. And Yeah. So I added some leaves. I didn't know I was going to do this in the beginning, but as the owl looked a bit lonely there, and I thought I'll put some branches behind him, and it'll look as if he's in the woods sitting in a tree. And so I did, and it was kind of fun because I think it perked the picture up a little bit, made it a little more interesting. And so I just kept adding leaves. Probably in the bog area, the leaves, well, there are quite a different number of different kinds of trees in there, but there are a lot of trees with needles, pine trees. Are they pine trees? Cedar trees. Yeah, the bog is a beautiful place. I guarantee if you go over there, you're going to love it there. There's so much to learn. I'm sure there's all kinds of interesting stories. There, we were adding some leaves. I was wondering about what happens to all the little creatures and the bugs and the little creatures that live in the water in the bog, because when I was over there, there wasn't much water, but my daughter-in-law said it's at this time of the year things dry up, and so a lot of them just go down into the mud, and some of them can't live in the dry area. I'd better find out what she said because there was more interesting information that I've forgotten. Sorry. I'm not much fun today. I think I'm tired. I've been trying to make videos today to get them onto YouTube so that we can have them up. And then I got my white marker out. I love my white marker. It is so much fun. It's a white acrylic marker. I bought it at Dessers, and I've had it for over a year, and it's not dried up. And whenever I pull it out, I just have to shake it up, and it gives me a nice white dot. And I really like putting white dots on my designs. And I thought this added quite a bit to our owl. It made him better. Don't you think? It made him a lot better. Yep, there he is. I wonder what his name is. Oh, that was my computer. I hope that didn't interrupt anything. There we go. We're almost done. I think this video is too long. However, you can always turn it off and come back. Turn it on again. There, I put a white line around his eye, and that really did the trick. Sometimes those last touches can make or break a picture, and this time I think it worked. With the flowers that I painted, I think I went too far, and I think they were quite okay as watercolors, but when I started putting the line on them, if you see that video, you'll know what I mean. So I think he looked pretty good, and not sure what else I was going to do here. I think he was pretty much finished. Oh, I took my my marker pen, Sharpie, and I made those eyeballs even darker by putting the black on there. Yeah. And I went around the eyes, and that made it darker too. That was the finishing touch, wasn't it? So, we're almost done here. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you will paint and have fun and paint other animals too. And learn about owls. Tell me about owls. I would love to see pictures of owls in the hallways if they ever let me go back into the school. With COVID and everything, maybe we could take pictures of our art and put them up on a website somewhere so that we can see everyone's owls. I think this is pretty good. I think we're done. So that was the owl. I think that was it. Yep. I'm not sure why I kept filming here. Oh, I was working on that tree trunk. Okay. Finishing up the tree trunk. Yeah. Just that finishing touches. That's what makes things come together at the end. So, there's our owl. And he's done. Oh, I had to just touch up the beak. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much, Madame Ev, for helping this project to get off the ground. And thank you, PAC, for supporting us, because I think this could be great fun, and we can learn things about art, and I'm learning so much already. I hope everybody can enjoy this project. And thanks to Art Starts, too. They like to be thanked. Okay, that's it.